So everyone, hello, welcome. We have a presentation today by EcoActUs, which is they're going to present the self-guided climate boot camp for extension professionals. This will be recorded. Um, and EcoActUs will facilitate the conversation. But before we get going, I just want to do some basic housekeeping. This organization that is hosting this is called the National Extension Climate Initiative. We go by NECI. We serve as an anchor for extension professionals, researchers, and partners to collaborate on climate-related issues, share resources, discuss barriers and opportunities for advancing climate change programming and extension, and engage in professional development opportunities. We are 100% voluntary, so you are encouraged to join one of our working groups. This presentation is being facilitated by the Curriculum Development Group, but there's also a communications, justice, equity, inclusion, and diversity, professional development, partnerships and policy, and evaluation. You can find more at nationalextensionclimateinitiative.net. So this is part of our spring series. This is the third of our series, and it's the DIY self-guided climate instruction is today, April 24th. But we have another one coming up May 22nd, Communities and Climate, all about co-created materials. And then on June 26th, about aging and climate. We will put a URL in the chat box so you can all find and register for these next events. You can also find on this web link the past recordings of the previous 2 workshops that we've hosted. Coming up on May 22nd is the Communities and Climate Co-Created Materials. Melissa Cray is going to talk about co-creating opportunities for women to engage in climate smart forestry. And Patricia Townsend will present on climate change and the Latine community co-creating curricula and programs. So be sure to join us for that. So final housekeeping before we launch. This will be recorded and uploaded to our webpage approximately 7 days after the event. Today's event will be facilitated by Rick and Wendy. I just want to let everyone know that we're trying different formats this spring semester. So if you have any suggestions on how to change or improve formats between our groups, let us know what's working for you. But today is special because it's in a meeting format, so it's open for everyone to participate. We do ask you to try to put your logistical problems in the chat and then put your questions and answers in the Q&A box just so that we can manage them separately and keep those 2 channels going. We endeavor to start and stop on time. We are not going to read bios. We aspire to be a resource of many resources from which you can draw upon for your regional work and to reach out to us if you want assistance. If you're inspired, we encourage you to join us. And with that, I'm going to leave it off for the EcoActUs team.
Hello. Glad to have you here. I am Wendy Hamilton. I am a member of the National Extension Climate Initiative, and I will be your opening presenter for today. And we will encourage you, if at all possible, to consider joining the National Extension Climate Initiative. It is all about extension work and partnering with other organizations. So if you happen not to be a member of the Cooperative Extension Service in this country or anywhere in the world, consider joining anyway. We love diversity and sharing ideas all over the world about climate education. So next slide, please. So if you are concerned about climate issues, puzzled about how to address aspects of it, need access to programmatic information, then the National Extension Climate Initiative invites your involvement. As Jenny said, it's free, there's no membership. We have links all over the webinar to help you get to the National Extension Climate Initiative. But what we do is try and provide resources like this EcoActUs curriculum to address climate issues, bolster networking, provide leadership opportunities, and find a safe place to address climate education obstacles that you might have in your position or in your area. So along with me today, Rick Schumann will be, who is another NECI member, will be adjusting the slides for me and for the other speakers. And we invite you to learn about EcoActUs from a couple of our other esteemed colleagues who are very deep and wide into EcoActUs. Next slide. So today's engagement guidelines, registered participants, if all of you are registered to attend this, you will get a copy of the slides. Feel free to ask questions throughout this presentation, as Jenny said, by raising your hand or posing your question in the Q&A. Rick will be monitoring all questions and helping us to address them as we go along. Contact any one of us. There's email addresses in this slide set. Contact any one of us if you have questions following this presentation. Otherwise, sit back, relax, close your office door or your traffic window, wherever you happen to be, and enjoy this presentation. We're providing you with...
Can I
Yes,
interrupt?
Rick.
One quick interruption. I do not see the Q&A tab on my controls, so if people would put questions in the chat, that would be helpful.
Okay, very good. So EcoActUs is a curriculum that is very deep and broad, and it has over 400 expert links within it. It has technical innovations tied to identified community needs, no matter where you sit. It has science, social, and economic strategies for resilience, adaptation, and mitigation. It's very flexible and is solutions-based. It has a completion certification if you need that within your job. It is free. It is open access. It is online. The only thing that is required is that you log in so that the developers of EcoActUs can keep track of who's involved. It provides pathways to determine your role in climate sustainability, opportunities to create partnerships, and I mean worldwide, partnerships all over the place with others of like-minded individuals. There are links and resources, scientists, policymakers, educators, the top names in climate education around the world. Aspects of it can be used with your program clientele, and it's up to date and constantly evolving. It is very current as of April 2024. Next slide, please. So the last part I'll say before turning it over to my colleagues is that EcoActUs has many ways of using it. You can use this curriculum as a self-directed, on your own time, individual curriculum education tool for yourself to, if you need to get up to speed on any issue that is relative to the major aspects of climate education. We have several boot camps that we offer periodically, almost every month, I believe, where you can discuss with others certain aspects. Maybe it's agricultural sustainability, or maybe it's food and nutrition. You can attend these boot camps, they're free. Leadership development opportunities, if you happen to be in a position, in a job where you need work, where you are looking for opportunities to provide leadership as part of your annual performance evaluation, EcoActUs has opportunities for you. We have participatory subject matter expertise avenues, and that means that you can contribute your specific knowledge area to an area of EcoActUs, one of the EcoActUs units. And also, it's just evolving now, but we have teen and collegiate 4-H participation. If you are looking for ways to involve your older teens, high school and college age 4-H teams, 4-H groups in climate education, this is the perfect venue. And we also have international film and media people who are interested in looking at and perhaps filming your 4-H group for a segment of climate education that might be distributed across countries. So with that, I think it's my turn to turn it over to Michael Linn, and he will take it from here.
I'm just going to introduce the participants from EcoActUs today. Michael Linn will be talking shortly. You've heard from Wendy, from myself, and we didn't get it on the screen, but Dayo Ajayi-Obe is with us as well. If you see her in the group of people there, she is also part of the EcoActUs. So, Michael, it's your turn.
Okay, and let's give you the introduction boot camp. First, I'm really delighted to meet with you today, and I'm delighted to meet with a group of educators, and I'm looking forward to sharing this with you. And Rick, if you'll let me share my screen, that would
Absolutely.
be great. And I'm gonna tell you a little story before we get started on actually walking through how to use the materials in your curriculums. But I think it's useful for you to understand how this came about and really what it is. Because as Wendy introduced it, I'm frankly a little bit overwhelmed. But, you know, and I've been working on it for 5 years. So it's a little bit overwhelming when you look at it. But actually, it came out of the Climate Reality Business Working Group, the National Business Working Group. And I'm a member of that group. And what we were doing was doing presentations to organizations to say, there's a climate crisis. But at the end of those organizations, people would say, well, I'm convinced. What are we going to do about it? What can I do about it? And we didn't have any tools or any real help for those people. Well, about that time, Harvard University has been going through some real challenges because they, of course, number one funder is the fossil fuel industry. Number two funder is the financial industry. So a lot of the alumni were saying you need to divest. And of course, the Board of Overseers was saying, no way we're giving up all that money. And it was a pretty good battle. And it went on for several years until finally the alumni were able to remove the Board of Overseers. And finally, Harvard has divested. But it's an example of the struggle we go through. And in that struggle, a group of the alumni got together and said, look, if we can't get Harvard to do what we think is the right thing, we're going to. So they formed the Harvard Alumni for the Climate and Environment. And I happen to be one of the early members. And while I'm going through the thought process of well, what kind of tool do we build for people, the director of programming there was asking for programming, and we started talking about it. And my own background is very large-scale organizational change. I worked on the reorganization of General Motors Europe, the breakup of AT&T, when Werner Communications bought Atari and then ultimately failed and sold to AOL. So I'd spent years in looking at how do you change an organization maybe with 1 million people. And our challenge is, as a society, we have to change all of our organizations. And if you look at how organizational change happens, it always starts with one person who has an idea that something could be better. And then that person will build a plan and get others involved, and slowly that momentum will build. And then it'll appear to the outside like suddenly that organization turned right. But it wasn't suddenly at all. It takes years of work and development. They have to get a new plan, a new direction. They have to reorganize. They have to change their information systems and the way they operate. So thinking about how do we change our society? How do we change our economy? We realized we're going to have to help empower people in organizations to be able to make these changes? Well, our research showed us that only 13% of public corporations in the U.S. have managers, this was reported in Bloomberg in 2020, who understand sustainability. These are biggest organizations don't have people who understand sustainability. I'm one of those people. I wasn't taught anything about sustainability. So we said, what would somebody in an organization need to change that organization? And the answer was they need self-confidence, they need leadership, they need to be leaders, and they need the knowledge to know what they're talking about. So we got a group of top educators together, some technology people, some psychologists and psychiatrists. You'd be surprised how many people are so depressed about climate that they're paralyzed. So how do we move people through that journey to be able to be effective in finding a better way? And by the way, along that way, what I've discovered, and it's now been quantified, this is a $150 trillion economic opportunity, because the technologies we have today are obsolete. Our old ways of using energy, our old ways of doing things, our wasteful, destructive one-way economy is really unnecessary. It's too expensive, it doesn't do things well, and we can't support 9 billion people with it. So in fact, it's a real entrepreneur's opportunity. And we're seeing that now in examples where we see, for example, farmers who are able to make much more money than their neighbors because they're using new approaches to it. So we got together and said, let's design the training program that will help people become effective in their organizations. And we have someone who needs to mute a phone, or one of the hosts might mute that phone, please. So I want to walk you through this program, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to use. But I want to say a couple of things about the design for you.
Okay.
Okay, try speaking again.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry.
Yeah, love technology. So the design of this is hierarchical, meaning there's a summary at the high level that you can look at and say, you know, is this subject, is this interesting to me? Do I need this? If it is, there are then a series of lectures you can choose to get a high level, what is this subject about? What's important to know about the subject? And then if you find that subject is interesting to you, but now you want to know a lot of detail, that's where the 400 curated references Wendy mentioned come in, because now you can drill down to the detail. We have 55 expert speakers, and we have over 100 expert volunteers who help curate all those links, identify the speakers, identify what is the most important thing for you to know. So it's very easy for you to use, and it's also self-directed. You can decide what you want to study. So with that note, I'm going to take you on a quick walk through it and show it to you and show you how to use this tool. So you should be seeing the landing page of EcoActUs. You come into the website. It has a session for participants, teacher's guide, resources and credits, which give you the resumes of all the speakers, a blog, a shop if you'd like a t-shirt, and of course, we're always happy if people are willing to make a donation. This tells you about what you find in the boot camp. Here are the speakers, really remarkable. Now, we got all the speakers to speak in a TED Talk, because the people who designed this curriculum actually put whole schools online, and they watched teenagers dull out looking at the talking heads. So we're saying, how do we make this really interesting? So everything's in a TED Talk format, where speakers who are used to talking about their subject for an hour, hour and a half, were asked to speak for 6 to 15 minutes. That makes it easy for you to get the overview of a particular subject without having to sit there through a long lecture. The speakers are pretty phenomenal. And I'll tell you, when you ask a president of a country who's used to speaking to the UN for an hour and a half to speak for 8 minutes, you got to be a little bit careful about how you do that. If you go on down below that, you'll see the sessions coming up with the boot camp if you want to take a session. And for each one of the showings of the boot camp, we have small group networking events so you can talk to other people who have similar issues about what you're running into or things you'd like to know more about or whatever it happens to be. I'm going to quickly point out to you the teacher's guide. If you decide you want to do your own workshop, you want to host an event, you'll find pretty detailed instructions on how to do it, as well as guides for the scripts for the different parts, slides for the different parts, how to run the networking sessions and scripts for that, all the way down to the meeting rules. How are we going to conduct the meeting? So that's out there because the whole thing is designed for teachers globally. And I will tell you that this Saturday we'll be launching with 50 teachers in India. We're working with a group in Africa right now, working with this group. But the point is for you to be able to personally get the education you need about climate and what are the solutions, and then share it to people. I will also tell you, it is used as a 4-credit college course. So that's been done as well. So let me take you into the boot camp itself. And if I click on this, by the way, when you register for the boot camp, you register one time. We ask you to use the same registration because otherwise the boot camp forgets where you are and who you are. It tracks your progress. It automatically grades your tests. It was designed by teachers for teachers. It has an essay portion where at each step you write a plan. I'll show you that portion. And it will issue the certificate if you go through the required materials. So I've already signed in. So I'm going to load the boot camp. And this is where you go. The introduction. And this is the journey, and this is the transformational journey that I'm talking about. The introduction, which is really the call to action. And it starts out with Dan Schrag, who's the director of the Harvard Center for the Environment. And Dan lays the facts pretty clearly on the table. We work hard not to be depressing, but some of those facts are not very encouraging. Once you're in there, it shows you a hero story of a man who was, when he was 18, founded Tree People. And here's an 18-year-old who was responsible for having over 3 million trees planted and literally changing the climate of Los Angeles. The second session is Introduction to Strategies. And if you don't see any other part, see the Introduction to Strategies, because it's leaders in the environmental movement talking to you about how to find the strategies you need and where to go. We're talking about drawdown, we're talking about pioneers, we're talking about leaders in the whole movement. The third session is the challenge to the status quo. Well, once I've sort of thought about, well, I got to have a strategy for this call to action, then you begin to think about, well, how would I actually go in and talk to people about it? How do I challenge what we're currently doing and offer something better? The fourth session is the road to change, because then you need a plan. This is how to build that plan, what you got to consider, what an organization would have to consider to build a plan. And then the fifth session is building support. How do I get people to support my ideas? These 5 sessions are actually training in leadership. They're actually giving the information a leader in the climate area needs to know to be a leader, but it's also training in how to be a leader. The 6th tab down here is a gateway to detailed climate strategies. Now, I'll show you that in a minute, but this is like transportation, energy, agriculture, water, and so forth. But to get the certificate, you need to do these 5 sessions and 1 climate strategy. And people say, well, what do you mean only 1 of them? I need to know about agriculture and water and recircular economy. But what we find out is the average person does 2.4 of these. Some people do the entire sessions. It basically takes you about 7 hours of lecture to get a certificate. But if you were to do all the lectures, you're closer to 16 to 17 hours of lectures in here. So let's go now to the strategies and share with you the strategies tab. As I said, water systems, transportation, built environment, energy use, industry, circular value chain, food and ecosystems, and regenerative agriculture. And these are all led by experts. And so let me explain a little bit and show you how you actually use one of these. You notice this has a little bit of green on it. The green, these bars turn green, this bar turns green, the sections turn green as you complete them. So it's designed, if you're actually teaching students, you can actually just glance at this and know what they've completed in the session, or the student can. And let's look at a session. This happens to be water systems. This is Nepal. And the lectures are all identified. Who's the lecturer on the different subjects? And if I look at this and say, well, I really want to see Andy Lipkus, but I don't really care about these other ones, I go over here and see his video is 5 minutes and 26 seconds, and it starts at 27 minutes. And I would say, okay, I really only want to see that one. It works just like other videos work. You just take your slide bar and go over here somewhere to about 27 minutes and whatever seconds it is. And here's Andy talking about the water system in LA to teach you about arid conditions and how water should be managed in arid conditions. If I go on down this, I see the overview, just a short write-up of what is this entire tract about. And then I come to Ecopedia. Ecopedia is leading web resources for the particular subject we're talking about. So here we've got the UN Sustainability Goal, ensuring water and sanitation. And that's the link to the UN papers about how we'll do that. International rivers, how we protect our rivers and defend the rights of communities to water. American rivers, how do we protect our rivers in the United States? International Water Association, Aquatech. So this gives you detailed references, but now we have fun in playlist because, you know, a lot of students just like to play with the subject, or they want to know more about it. So we have some suggested videos that are just for fun, and they're not necessarily something you got to see to take the course. Then we summarize, what does this tell us we need to do? The big opportunities. And you'll notice we have one here, community involvement in cleaning up our rivers. And then we have live links to examples and how-tos of communities, how you get involved, extended readings. And here's the test. You take the test, it's self-grading. It's a pretty easy test. It's not designed to really stump people, but rather to see, did you actually cover the material? And an action plan. Each section has an action plan that asks you to enter something about what do you plan to do? What's your opportunity to make a change? How will you go about it? If you actually do the course, fill in the action plans, you come away with an action plan for the organization you're thinking about. And that organization may be your school, maybe a business, maybe your place of worship, whatever organization, your community. And by the way, those are stored when you do them. And then we have a section we call Explore, when you just want to know more about it, like restoring the national mangrove forests, or recovering from a storm, or Nature Conservancy's natural solutions. So that's how it's basically used. That's what it is. It's designed for teachers, by teachers, to make it easy to use. Hopefully you can see, if you just want to share with some students a single lecture, or your neighbors, you hear something that's interesting, you just like to show them one piece of this, you can do that, or you can do the entire course. Now, at that, I'm going to stop sharing. And we've got one more slide, Rick, if you will share it, and then we'll stop and take questions.
So let me share my screen here.
Wendy talked about the fact that there are other opportunities. Would you go to the next slide? And I want to share an opportunity. This is an example. I particularly like this one. To do the boot camp, we worked with a number of experts all over the world, literally all over the world. But we particularly got some good friends in Hollywood. And some of those friends are the organization that distributes leading award-winning documentaries globally. And they've been particularly involved, and they wanted us to share with you a set of videos called Wild Hope. And the reason we're sharing those videos with you is because they're available to you for free. There's a link on this slide. You'll get the slides to an episode I particularly like. But this is designed for with students in mind who are in that 15 to 25-year-old age, particularly. Adults like this too. But it's a very hopeful, solution-oriented message. And we think it would be ideal for 4-H students. The episodes are 15 to 30 minutes. It's ideal for high school students in terms of the length of the episode. It's very easy for you to show a short episode and have a discussion about that episode. It is based in science. One thing that we've done in the boot camp is way we used our experts is say, every reference we put on there, we want to make sure that is accurate science. Well, this system is the same. By the way, it's been shown on PBS and it's currently, I believe, currently being shown on PBS. And they're actually asking for additional ideas and episodes. So if this group has some ideas, and I'll give you an example, then let me know. Send me a one-page write-up and I'll send it to the producers, and you may find yourself on national TV. Each episode is science-based educational materials created by the highly regarded curriculum company, Interactive, and that's free. So you can get curriculum materials with the videos. The series covers things like rewilding. How can I bring wildlife back into my neighborhood? I'm trying to bring butterflies back in my neighborhood right now. How do I do that? Land restoration. In agriculture, how can we rebuild our land? Animals, birds, frogs, wildlife. If you're just interested in how wildlife operates. Conserving our natural habitat. Maybe you want to create an impact project for students to clean up a habitat and get it to where the butterflies can actually live here again. And building a forest. And the thing I like most about this is some of the episodes feature high school students with high impact projects. If you go to this link, this takes you to their website. The episodes are free. You can choose those episodes. The particular one I picked for the link I wanted you to see is a group of high school students with a science teacher in New York who have reseeded the New York harbor with oysters so that the oysters can clean up the harbor. Now, you talk about a high impact project that would teach a student that they do make a difference. It just excites me to talk about that. So I just want to make you aware of that. That's available. If there is a small team who wants to create 4-H materials, be happy to both give you reference to the producers and link you to this, but also to work with you to help you produce that material. By the way, if you have material like that, as I said, we're premiering with high school teachers in India. We're now looking at Kenya about the gaps in their education and how to fill those gaps. We would love to connect you to other teachers or be the conduit to help connect you. So that's really my message today. I'd like to stop and ask questions. And so, Rick, I think I'm going to turn it back over to you, and let's see what kind of questions people have.
Okay, well, we don't have any questions.
No questions.
No questions in the chat. Jennifer was kind enough to put the links, though, that I just put up on the screen in the chat. So if you want to copy them from the chat, you can do that. If you want to take a picture of the screen and get them that way, you can. Or if you want to get a copy of the slides when those go out, you're welcome to do that. Somebody said no questions because there's so much good info to digest. Thank you for that, Paula Buchanan. There is a lot of information to digest.
I see Dayo has a question. Dayo?
Yes.
Oh, Dayo, go
Well, I
ahead.
just wanted to mention the networking meetings are fabulous. And I'd actually implore everybody to join the network meetings. It's amazing, the exchange of ideas and solutions that come through. I actually encourage everybody to actually join these networks. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to echo that, Dayo. It's a highlight of Saturday every couple of months where we're in our networking sessions and we get to talk with people from all around the world, India and Kenya, Africa, Indonesia. It's a lot of fun, and you make a lot of good connections with people who are trying to do the same kind of things that you are.
I see Terry has a question, if I can answer that. How do we sign up for the training? Literally, you go to the EcoActUs website, which I think is in the chat, and you register, and that's it. There is no cost for this, and there's no cost for you to use it with your students. If you want us to help you set up a class, we can do that. There are instructions on the website, but the whole point of this tool is to give educators a tool to educate themselves and their students. So it is free because all of the cost of doing it has been donated by our volunteers to get it done. And of course, taking part, as Wendy said early on, you can just take the course. You can both do it yourself if you don't want to do the small discussion groups, or you can come to our sessions, which are on our website. You go to the website and just register for it, take one of the courses. But you can also use this in your class. You can cherry pick it and say, I just want to show this lecture to my students or to my neighbors or whatever, or do this session, or you can lead a session and use this as background information. And of course, as I just mentioned, there are videos available to you that we can also make available, like Wild Hope. Any other questions?
Michael, I'll interject here one more time. I can't emphasize enough, having been a 4-H agent myself, and trying to find curriculum that stimulates the older age groups of kids in 4-H. This is the key to keeping them involved, engaged, excited, active. And as Michael described, we have connected with an opportunity to put your 4-H kids, your collegiate 4-H kids, whatever, in the national or international spotlight by filming some of the work that they end up doing, because you've taken the time to delve into EcoActUs and help them find pathways towards sustainability. It's a tremendous opportunity that I wish I had had when I was an agent.
Well, I was a 4-H member, by the way, growing up in Arab, Alabama. I think it's a fantastic program, and I think this and some of the videos we're talking about can help you to expand their mind and build their confidence.
Okay, Jennifer says, presenters, can you tell us more about how your boot camp designed for extension on the specially designed page ecoactus.org/NECI. That link is simply another way to get into the EcoActus platform. The NECI has designated EcoActus as a tool for learning for extension folks, educators. And so we have a special landing page for you. There, you can go in either way. They both get you to the same place.
But let me add quickly that Rick and Wendy are being modest, because about a year ago, we needed to do a session on agriculture and on water. And Wendy and Rick, David Kay, who's on here, several other people I won't mention who are members of NECI, volunteered to help us put together our introduction to regenerative agriculture and modern agricultural practices. And it's been really well received. Not only well received, it's been well received globally to share the information. There's a real hunger, interestingly enough. 25% of our participants, and we've trained thousands of people now, come from the global south. And so we're very appreciative of the relationship with NECI and what NECI has helped us do to create training to introduce really a lot of people in the world to what are we talking about when we say regenerative agriculture.
If you drill down a little bit further, there is an opportunity, if all of you that are online are with Extension and have promotion and tenure dossiers to put together, this is an excellent opportunity to put in your promotion and tenure documents that you've worked on a global basis or a national basis or a regional basis on topical information that you happen to be an expert in. Michael Linn is the person to contact if you have an expertise that you don't see in the EcoActus curriculum at this point, and he has probably got a list on his desk of additional topics that we need expertise in. So not only is this a front door opportunity for you, it's a backdoor opportunity.
And I just put my email in the chat if you need to reach me. You can also reach us through info@EcoActus.
Terry asked the question, will this recording be available? And okay, Jennifer answered her in the chat. Yes, there's a link to where it will be available in about 1 week. I can't emphasize enough there, just for clarity, there's two ways to approach EcoActus. One, you can do it on your own. Go in to the links that we've provided and register and explore it on your own. And another is what we call Climate Boot Camp, which is a 2-week session where you go through at your own pace, but there are 3 networking sessions associated with it where we get together on Zoom and talk with other folks who are going through the boot camp at the same time. And the boot camp is just a great way to meet other people, to network. I get, whenever we do a boot camp networking session, I get another 4 or 5 LinkedIn people wanting to link up with me from all around the world. It's a wonderful way to just to meet other people and other cultures and see what other people are doing. If anybody else has a question, you're welcome just to come off mute and ask it or type it in the chat.
Jennifer, do you want to talk about your YouTube channel, about the YouTube channel?
I'll just say that it is new. You can find all of NECI's recordings, or almost all of NECI's recordings, on the NECI webpage. The YouTube channel is new, and we hope to upload all the old presentations over there, so it's searchable and easily shareable. I will also say that on May 22nd, we will have the Climate and Communities programming. and it has two really great speakers talking about forestry with women and climate change with the Latinx community. And then also on June 26th, I don't know if this is all going to go in there. We have another webinar that you can register for on aging. Yeah, so I mean, really, there's so much we can all do together, and part of the objective here is to get different voices to share their different perspectives on what they're doing and how they're succeeding or how they're failing, right? We're not, we all know this is a learning process for all of us. And we'd love to have other people join us and share your enthusiasm from your part of the world. Do any of the presenters want to talk about their favorite section of the EcoActus? Like, do you have a favorite either presentation or workbook or tool? Dayo, please.
Dayo, please.
For me, I'd like to, one highlight was the mangrove presentation and how it came about. Just through our network meetings, the one person from Indonesia, one person from Philippines, one person from Mexico, one person from Florida had major problems of mangroves, and that was how we developed the presentation for mangroves. So this is people around the world, the same problem, and all coming together and to actually see how actually what update as how people are tackling these things. So that's one of the highlights when it comes to just sharing ideas, get what people are going through, and seeing how can we create solutions.
The other thing to note is that the EcoActus is not a static thing. It is changing. It's being updated and added to all of the time. We're currently working on a new technical track about small and landless farms, and you can look for that hopefully later this year. But the material is all gone through periodically and rejuvenated. We just did that with the a couple of the technical tracks, and we added the regenerative agriculture and the water systems are our new technical tracks. So check back often. Kathy Buckley has a question.
Yeah, thank you very much for this presentation. And, I was wondering if you have had any connection with Drawdown, and the idea that maybe, I mean, Drawdown tried to look at what things can we do that are going to have the most impact, and therefore would you be able to say have films that are really aimed at what's really going to make a bigger difference at this point?
Yeah, Dr. Foley is our keynote speaker on our session on Introduction to Strategies, and we use Drawdown extensively, and there are definitely references in different areas of the different technologies. And I mentioned we work with some really premier organizations. That's one of them, which is a leading solution organization. Let me make a differentiation. We are an introductory course, like we're introduction to math or introduction to natural sciences or whatever. So we're an overview with the ability to do drill down, excuse me. Drawdown is one of the drill downs we would do for specific areas because they are really experts in different solutions. But we also include the UN. The UN has a lot of expertise there. We also include pioneers. They have a lot of, so Drawdown is, I would say, one of the top solutions organizations in the world, and we've worked closely with them on this.
Thank you. And could I ask a totally unrelated question?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Point. Here in North Carolina, one of the biggest obstacles to getting rid of greenhouse gases is the utility and the power of the utility politically. Having been a monopoly for decades, it's grown its tentacles quite substantially. And it's building, gas plants rather than clean energy projects because it's more profitable for them to do that. Would that be something that would be kind of, like are there now talks along these areas of how are we going to politically move?
We do talk about that subject, plus talk about another premier organization. Climate Action Now has a section in overcoming the challenge to status quo. And that's an app on your phone that you put in your zip code, and it identifies your state senators, representatives, local board of education, and has programs to send emails and letters and whatever on specific issues. Like the Farm Bill, for example, they've had pretty extensive Farm Bill programs. The utilities, I'm going to share some experience I've had, Kathy. I grew up in civil rights. Literally, as a 9-year-old, I could walk down the street 3 blocks and be in a civil rights demonstration. I went to college. Literally outside my door in Harvard Square, I could be in another Vietnam demonstration. And I think when I mentioned that there are obsolete technologies out there, one of the burdens the United States has that Europe does not have as badly as us, and countries that are emerging like Africa and India do not have as badly as us. We have obsolete technologies like fossil fuel, and I'm using that as a business person who's worked in technology most of my life, and it's obsolete. And it's like the steam engine companies are going to do everything they can to keep the market for steam engines. So that's a zero-sum game. They're going to lose. They will actually lose over a period of time on that. The question is how painful that gets to be. So we make a real effort to not be political, right? We have to make our materials such, we're trying to bring people into the tent, not push them out. So what you'll see here is a steady approach at not being political. But the reality is people are swayed by showing a better vision, not by arguing. And as we learn how to present a better vision, so we should be talking about solutions. Generally, it's not productive if somebody's arguing with you about, oh, well, electric cars are a disaster and, et cetera. It's just not productive. But explaining to them the benefits of electric cars works. Why do I care about it? Is because they're cheaper, they're easier to maintain, they're more affordable. So there you will get instruction in the leadership section about how do you actually be effective at leading a change. And sometimes that means that I've got to be willing to march on the streets so my kids don't march to war. Sometimes there are situations where you actually have to have political demonstrations. You have to get people engaged. But what we're hoping is that we educate people in utilities. We're hoping we can educate them and show them a better way, and in that way, prepare the ground for change. But guaranteed, with the fossil fuel industries, we're going to have to march. I'm sorry to be long-winded. It's a lifetime study for me.
So, Kathy, I just want to say that I think there's been an incredible change in New York State, for example. And what I mean by that is it's been a slog for a long time. But when it happens fast. And so I think one of the key messages for all of us in Extension is that if you have a logical passion, a passion that you think fits this solutioning, try to be preparing those materials because once it starts moving, it moves so fast and we are unprepared. And so one of the great things about us having 50 states in this country is that, some states are excelling in responses to sea level rise, and other states are responding to renewable energy. And I think there's this mix and match way in which we can grab from other organizations and other groups in order to advance what's happening. But what I really am trying to say here is it is very slow until like one little stone breaks, and then it is so fast and furious. So I'm just trying to, I don't know. I think it's gonna happen. And
It's definitely not linear. And it's also, I mean, I come from Massachusetts, and I know that we have a lot of work to do just to get to the point of where, you know, Massachusetts and New York are. But yes, it's not linear.
Yep. I got to say
Fine.
one other thing about.
Oh.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to point out, I
What?
put in the chat, the next boot camp opportunity is coming up on May 7th. So if you want to experience EcoActUs as a part of a boot camp, go out to the website and register for that. And we'll see you there.
I want to add one thought that maybe is a closing thought, and that is, after spending over a decade working on solutions to the climate and environment and pretty much a life in technology, you start looking, there's no magic pill. We need 1 million lights, and that means everything has got to change the way we're operating. But if there is a magic pill, it's agriculture. Farm to table is 30% of our pollution, fossil fuel pollution. There are those that believe industrial chemicals are even worse than the fossil fuels. So moving our agriculture forward, the only thing that, and if you know the technologies that the fossil fuel companies are trying to use to pull carbon out of the air, and you understand those technologies, the chance of us creating an economic, workable technology that can draw more carbon out of the air than all of our cars and all of our power plants is asinine. We can't get the scale. But there is one industry that can get the scale to bring enough carbon out to save our grandchildren's. This is literally true, and it's agriculture. And one of the reasons we've been so interested in working with NECI is you guys are absolutely on the front of the fight. And it's the 4-H that are going to be the leaders of the real changes that are going to be happening, that are going to give us the ability to produce enough food for the world under circumstances where we can't keep just moving on to more new farmland, and we can't just deplete the soil. And we've got to get the changes in behavior, and you're the guys on the front lines. So no problem, your challenge.
well, I want to thank everybody here at EcoActUs for sharing your great resources of all these different thinkers and doers from around the world. And I hope to see some of you at some of our next workshops, or even better, joining one of our working groups so we can leverage each other's work together. Thank you so much for joining us, and look for the recording on some of the links I shared earlier. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.